Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in the Cosmic Suit. It's currently Sunday, the 25th of February. I'm recording this at 6:45 in the evening, and I want to take you back a couple of weeks to something that was in the newspapers in Ireland. Here you can see the politician, Paul Murphy, naming 3 men he labels far-right activists under Doyle. That's the Houses of Parliament in Ireland, for those of you that don't live here. Privilege. It's a privilege that they get, and they can say what they want when they're inside the House during the arson discussion. And he's described here as the People Before Profit TD. TD is basically like an MP, if you're not from Ireland, said that the recent spate of arson attacks on rumoured asylum seeker accommodation sites are acts of far-right terrorism in the state. Let's just listen to what he had to say.
To be used for yesterday, a house in Leixlip was burned down after false rumours circulated saying that it was going to be used for people seeking asylum. 4 days ago, the old Crooksling nursing home in Britis was burnt down. On New Year's Eve, the old Shipwright pub in Ringsend was burnt down. It was due to house homeless people. We have seen 26 arson attacks in the last 5 years against premises rumoured to be used for asylum seekers. The pattern is very, very clear. A rumour starts, true or false, suggesting a property is going to be used. Far-right activists, people like Philip Dwyer, Gavin Pepper, Fergus Power, are quick to the scene. A few days later, it is burnt down. We should call what we are seeing what it is. We are witnessing a campaign of far-right terrorism in this state.
Now, that's pretty extraordinary to me, because naming people like that is an extremely bizarre thing to do without any call through normal channels of law. And this is coming from the same government which has committed a genocide on its own people in the last 4 years. This sign behind me, I got in Dublin in 2020. That's nearly 4 years ago. And the fight in this country has intensified and intensified. There is a mass plantation, mass immigration going on across Ireland. If you watch my show regularly, you'll see the interview. I've done a number of interviews, including with Philip Dwyer, who was just mentioned there, and with other people over the last 4 years, trying to chronicle some of this and highlight the issues that are going on here, because Ireland has become the center of this attempted communist New World Order takeover sponsored by the WEF and the WHO, unelected bodies, including the EU, that are running not only Ireland, but trying to destroy countries across the world. Some of you might refer to this as the Kalergi plan. There's lots and lots of different opinions about all of this, but one thing that's for sure is that the 3 guys mentioned there are on the front line and taking huge flack from national newspapers, as much as, but also gathering enormous support from the people across the country, which is amazing to see. And I'll just point out that that man who just named them in Parliament, which I think is an outrageous thing to do, is the same man that had a baby and is bringing up little Juniper as a gender-neutral baby, which is kind of speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? But 2 of those gentlemen are here with me today. Please welcome Ferg. How you doing, Ferg?
How you doing, Mike?
Good to see you both. How are you?
Okay, thanks for having me on.
It's always a pleasure, Philip. Ferg, we've spoken for a long time, but you've never been on the show, so you're welcome. And good to see you both. And thank you for everything that you're doing, is the first thing I'd say. So the next thing I'd say is, how's it going? One at a time.
Do you want to go ahead, Phil?
Yeah, how's it going? Where do you start, Mark? Again, thanks for giving us your platform there to get the message out again. And that's really, I suppose, myself and Ferg have been trying to get the message out for the last, how many years now? 3, 4, 5 years now. Just to give a bit of truth to the Irish people. They're being deprived of it. All our airwaves have been polluted for the last God knows when. And of course, we're kind of, I say Ferg might agree, we're kind of reluctant to be in this It's kind of given us no choice. The whole system has given us no choice. We have to be a platform to get the truth out to people, to get the message out to people that our country is being destroyed and been taken off us. How's it going today? Let's say, for one example, today, I mean, things happen by the hour mark, right? So today I attended a protest demonstration in Naas, County Kildare. County Kildare is the kind of the home of horse racing in Ireland. It's world famous. Every Kildare man you meet knows everything there is to know about horse racing and horses and everything. There's a massive field out there. You could probably fit a race course on the field outside of the town of Naas. It's a kind of a fairly big town now at this stage. It's grown an awful lot in the last 20 years with the boom, and Dublin has become so difficult to get housing in and whatever, so it's become a big satellite town. So this field, it's unbelievable. I've never kind of, it's kind of the pinnacle of it now, I think, where they've put in 300 porto cabins. Apparently they're going to sleep 3 people in each of these porto cabins, so you're talking about 900 by the looks of things, military age males. Now Mr. Murphy and the Dáil can turn around and say these guys are spreading rumors, right? This is no rumor. It's on my thing here. You can see other people have posted up the images of these porta cabins. I think they've hired them in from England on a minimum contract of 1 year for each one. And apparently, I just heard one of the locals saying that it costs about €120 per day to hire one of these porta cabins. Now that's multiply that by 300, multiply that by 365. So the cost alone, just to hire those units, those porta cabins, and then you have the transportation and the installation, and you have the sewage system, the whole lot. So it was a very good turnout in Naas. So these things have been springing up all over the country. People are starting to wake up. People are starting to get sick and tired of it. We've got the elections coming up in June, local elections and European elections, and then hopefully a general election then in at least 12 months' time. So the general consensus now is the average person in the street now is talking about this all the time now. They're sick and tired of it. And you can kind of feel now that the anger, and you could see it in the Dublin riots in 2023 in November there, where this boiled over to the surface when the 3 children and their carer were stabbed on the street in broad daylight, allegedly by an Algerian national who came to this country and shouldn't have been here. He was told to leave. He failed the process a couple of times, and he was just kept here. The government didn't deport him, and eventually he was given citizenship, which, like, you just can't make this up, Mark. Like, it's just unbelievable. Even I said in the stream today, the courtroom, myself and Ferg came to support me. I'm up on a charge for going to ask an owner of a creche why she's putting LGBT indoctrination into her toddlers in her creche. I'm being charged with public order, threatened and abusive. We were in the courtroom. We were probably sat there. Ferg was there. We sat there for maybe 10, 15 minutes to wait for a case to be called out. 2 cases came up, both non-nationals. One was an Algerian, needed an Arabic Algerian translator for the case to be heard. The case didn't happen for whatever reason. And then the second guy pleaded guilty to a drink driving charge. He was way over the limit. And apparently he's been in the country for 13 years, but he had 2 previous convictions. They came out when he pleaded guilty. Judge asked what they were. One of them was for theft. I can't remember what the other one was. But that's going back 13 years ago. So he had 2 previous convictions. And I'm asking the question, what was he still doing in the country after 2 convictions? If I went to another country and I started breaking the laws, you would expect it to be par for the course just to be deported and out. If you had the service sentence, out you go. What was the man doing here? Is what I want to know. I don't understand. So the whole system is kind of and he was being treated. He got the most lenient treatment. The Gardaí were kind of nearly fawning over him. Oh, he only has 2 previous convictions. You know, the man shouldn't be in here. If you come into a country and you commit 2 crimes and you get caught for committing 2 crimes, out you go. You know, you should be gone. But anyway, yeah, how's it going? I think we're making huge progress. We're making huge inroads. I think the vast majority of the people in the country now are seeing things for what they are. You know, I don't want to get too optimistic because, you know, you can raise your hopes and then an election comes and then people just don't bother their ass getting out there and voting. Maybe I'm hoping I'm wrong. I hope they will get out and make a big, huge sea change in the political system now in this country, and show these politicians that they're not taking the insanity that they're inflicting on us anymore. But yeah. I'll take a breath.
Yeah, take a breath. There's a lot of questions there, but Ferg, let's throw the same question at you because you're on the front line every day. How's it been for the last? Well, I know you've been at it, both of you, every day. It's like a full-time job. But yeah, same question to you, Ferg.
I think that the 5th of this month, the bank holiday Monday, when the amount of people that came out to Dublin City Centre, it was a major message to this criminal cartel in the guise of a government. They're not having any more. As Phil said, there's so many people waking up to this now. There really is. And I think by the end of this year, you're going to see numbers on the streets that you've never seen before for this country. And it's well overdue. It's been the same people day in, day out. Myself and Phil and a few others. But I have to say, it's given me an awful lot of positivity going forward. And the amount of people that got in touch with me that day, to say, even my own wife was here at home with my mother-in-law, and they were in absolute tears. Just by the sheer amount of people that got out that day. And it's absolutely amazing to me. Just to meet so many people, like-minded people that want what's right for your country and for their families. And that's all we're doing it for. Everything I do is for my children. It's for my family and it's for my country. And there's not an ounce of quitting me or Phil or anyone like us. So you picked the wrong fight with the wrong people.
Well, you know, I'm just showing your Twitter page here, and if you guys watching this haven't heard of these two, please follow them on Twitter. Fergus Power 1, and I think the other one was your full name, Philip Dwyer, isn't it? No numbers in there, is there, Philip?
Yeah, underscore MOI capitals, yeah.
I'll come back to that. Make sure everybody's... I'll put the links below this video if you're watching this on Twitter or Rumble or wherever. You've pinned this post here, Ferg, which was in July when the guards... arrested you and assaulted you. I mean, that was pretty horrific to... it was horrific to watch on a video, but being there must have been even worse.
Mark, I take that all day, every day. If it means exposing those show the sellouts and traitors for exactly what they are. That went viral. That went all over the world. I was trending on fucking Twitter that night. Ferg was trending on Twitter. Yeah, I got an awful lot of support out of that as well. Look, every part of this is God. In my eyes, it's God's plan, and in the end, we will win. God wins and we win. That's the way I look at it. And every part of this is His plan. Everything that's happening has to happen to expose the absolute evil that is running this country and this world, and it's to wake up everyone to it. So it'll never fucking happen again. This can never ever happen again. I'll never place chains of slavery on my own children by my own hand, by sitting back and not doing anything. I can't deal with it. I can't turn away from that. This has to be faced head on and met head on, and that's it. It just has to be stamped out for good.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's going to be people watching this that are at different points of waking up in terms of what's going on. You know where I stand, Ferg, because we've been spoken for a long time. But there are people that I've met in Ireland who... let's go back to COVID and didn't want to rock the boat and wore the mask, got jabbed to keep their jobs and everything. And, you know, and I remember walking through Dublin and the people on the sides of the streets wearing a mask, looking at us like we were nuts. And I know you've had a lot more experience of that. And the reason I showed that video of the guards is because you said yourself that, it's, you know, how are they still doing what they're doing? How do they really not know who they're working for? Do they really not know they work for a corporation? Do they really not know that the people of Ireland will not forget what they've done?
The sad thing about it is that they're starting to feel there as well. Any guard with a conscience, unfortunately, has gone out with that. They're gone. And what we're left with now, I can't even think of a word to describe them. That's being honest with you. You boil my blood, and I don't know what. They're just traitors.
What do you think, Philip?
Yeah, no, it saddens me. I mean, I take no joy in saying this, and I've had a discussion earlier on today with people in Kildare about the guards. I have absolutely no faith in them now. And I don't get any enjoyment out of saying that. It's a terrifying thing for any society. That your police force has to go to this. I haven't found one that has approached me or anyone that I know that are making content and trying to expose this to whistleblow or to speak off the record even, to say that, you know, we're being made do these things and they don't agree with it. They haven't made any effort whatsoever that I'm aware of. So that's another frightening aspect of it too. Plus, I only have to deal with my own experiences in courts where I've seen them blatantly lie and been able to disprove them in the courts, and then there's no repercussions for them. Now they're going in making up a story about you that you could potentially lose your liberty, and then when they're proven wrong or proven incompetent, there's no repercussions for them. You know, they walk out of the courtroom like with a smirk on their face, or they just don't care. So I've been at a couple of court cases now, including my own, not just my own, and where I've seen, and we've seen video footage where a guard has acted in a certain way, and he'll go out and blatantly say something to, say it to a judge, give a story to a judge, and we can all see that this guy is lying through his teeth, and he's doing it under oath, and they seem to get away with it. So it is, I mean, the Gardaí over the last showed us during COVID how they were prepared to jump on board with the absurdities to abolish the basic constitution. They've abolished the immigration laws. They won't enforce the immigration laws. I mean, when it comes to it, they have every right to refuse. A politician or a government that gets elected in, they don't get elected in to make up their own laws. They have to abide by the laws of the land, the same as everybody else. But what we have now is that a political ideologue in our government who believes in open borders, who believes that migration has to happen in this country and we have to be replaced, that once they say that you're to allow these people in, the Gardaí are going along with it when it's clearly against the laws of the land. And these people who come in with no documents, come in telling lies about their story, making up whatever happened to them in their previous country they were in, easily debunked, crossing through safe countries to get here. The Gardaí just won't enforce them and put them back on a plane or whatever the process is. They should not be let out of the airport, basically. This isn't happening. And then we have the guards there protecting these direct provision centres, where we can see literally 100 yards from the entrance of some of these direct provision centres, there's little drug dens. The first bit of bushes are cover that they can find. They're in there shooting up heroin. They're smoking crack cocaine, and they're taking drugs. There's used condoms all around the place. Antisocial behaviour near where children are playing, under the noses of the guards. The guards don't. They drive in and out of these places now. They get cars, fleeing war and persecution. These people, they're getting cars, going around with no tax and insurance on the cars. Gardaí are just looking at them. They go around with impunity of the law, like, you know. So I mean, yeah, it is. It's a sad day that you have to say this because it's the truth, and the truth hurts, but it is the truth. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people still, you know, think, you know, that the guards are, you know, we have to have the guards on our side. And the fact of the matter is they're just not on our side, you know. And I was just looking at statistics there for wages in the last 3 or 4 years now. The average just ordinary policeman guard in this country, like rank and file policeman guard in this country, is earning on average €1,500 a week. Now that's whatever, maybe 1,200 sterling a week when you include allowances and overtime for all the stuff they've had to deal with during COVID. Obviously, there's a lot of Gardaí police retiring and resigning. Okay, so that means that there's more work, and then it creates probably more overtime for the existing guards that are left. So it's a nice little gravy train. It's a nice little earner for them. It would entice you to do more of what you're told and disregard what you signed up for, what your oath is. You know, you swore an oath to the Constitution to protect the people of this country. And you know, most of them that you'd ask wouldn't even know what their oath was. They wouldn't even remember it. You know.
Well, it's, you know, it's like this in a lot of countries. I saw a policeman in California speak out against the governor today, which I thought was the first time I've seen that in the States, and that's what we need to happen in the UK and in Ireland. And it is getting closer. I do share your optimism, Ferg, with it. But you know, when you're at the front line and you're seeing this, it's you know, if there's people watching this who are going to say, you know, I mean, Paul Murphy said that you were I've been called a white supremacist, far-right fascist for opening up a healing centre in Boyle in Roscommon by the trolls, and worse. But you know, you've had to stick with this label of being far-right. Can you both address that particular label, because it's coming from government, right? It's coming from government, through the media, through RTE, through the papers, and they're calling mothers with children on the street asking questions about why there are loads of men from Somalia who are fighting age without any wives or children moving in large numbers into their towns and villages. How is this far right thing playing out on the ground with you guys?
It's gone. It doesn't mean nothing anymore. They've overplayed their hand. They've dragged myself and Philip and other people through the slanders, through the papers, the television. They've done a prime time special, and other couple of people labelling us this and labelling us that. I couldn't give any less of a shit when anyone calls me. I don't care. Sticks and stones, that's my whole thing. Same as Phil. It's only words. They don't matter to me. Paul Murphy, after Crookston was set on fire, the next morning he was pissing them out and, whoa, where's security? I happened to take a video of a security man going in that night. A foreigner doing security. When he was driving, he was looking at something on his phone in his car, for one. He'd no tax, no insurance. He's driving in that night. So I tagged Murphy the next day and I put the video up. It says, there's your security. He works for Kennedy Security. So get on to them, do something useful for the Irish people. Get your head out of your ass. Go and ring Kennedy Security and ask them what their man was doing that night when them fires are set. And another thing as well, Mark, funnily enough, anytime there's a protest, it's not even a protest, it's a rally, I call it, or a get together, whatever, it's a constitutional gathering. There's police, there's public order units sent out when we're there doing absolutely nothing but acting as in a constitutional rights. But the night that, it's so funny when all these fires get set, there's not a policeman or nothing to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, Philip, go on.
Yeah, sorry. It's like this far right trope nonsense as well. Now it's everyone now at this stage. Now it's run its course. It's Mark, and it'd be like it's a cultural Marxist ploy to just kind of destroy the person that's criticizing you, destroy the person that's shown dissent, that doesn't agree with you. And it was used in communist Russia back in the day. The Bolsheviks did it, and it's out of the Karl Marx playbook or whatever, name calling, and it's using psychological warfare against you. It's not working now. They've as Ferrick said, like they've overstepped it now. They've run its course. So this far right, there's a far left in this country. Paul Murphy would be the far left, and what he did in the Dáil, it was desperation from the far left, really. That's the way I look at it. It's like, and it was interesting to say the chairman, or the Ceann Corla, they call him there, the guy who's meant to, keep people in check in the Parliament, in the Dáil, and to, protect citizens when something like this happens. It's his job to protect people like us. We haven't been charged. I don't have any criminal convictions. And it's like, he's allowed to say this. And then what he said afterwards was, yeah, Mr. Murphy, just be careful here. We know these people have been mentioned in the media, and that's okay. And I'm asking myself, I have emailed him and I've asked him, what does he mean that's okay, that we've been slandered in the media as well? It's not for the Ceann Corla, the chairman of the Dáil or the Parliament, to make a statement like that, to like say, oh, that's okay. We know these people have been named in the media. All we've been done in the media is been slandered. We've never been given a fair say. Nobody has ever come to me or the media after these hit pieces and offered for me to do an interview to counteract anything that they're saying. So there's no fairness. And when it happens in Parliament, and I've had repercussions, I've been refused service in place in one particular place, because of what's been put on the television and the newspapers about me. Oh, you're not welcome here, because they believe what they're hearing from these what you call them, parasites in the Dáil, and there's repercussions. There's safety repercussions as well. This is incitement to hatred as well, and it should be treated as a criminal offence. There's absolutely, we have constantly said we are for peaceful protests. We don't condone any violence or any lawlessness whatsoever. We are the people of law and order in this country. The law and order has broken down. The likes of Murphy, he's on the side of lawlessness. You know, he wants to bring in these people illegally. And again, it's all about the demographics. We know it's all about giving them votes and everything else, replacing the Irish people, turning people into economic units. But again, it's like they can say what they like about us, me and Ferg. It's water off a duck's back. I mean, and it's nearly in one sense. I don't really like talking about Murphy too much because, you know, I don't want to give him any traction. He just does enough damage to himself with people. Like that, when you mentioned earlier, the guy doesn't even know whether his child is a boy or a girl. He has a son, and he's going to let this child decide its own gender when it gets what age, 4 or 5 years of age. He's going to let his child decide what gender is. It's absolutely insane. It's child abuse. And God help us when the country comes back to some kind of normality, some kind of sanity. People like this will be put up in front of a judge and jury of their peers and put to trial for what they're doing to children in this country.
Well, the reason I showed him at the beginning is because there's a lot of people that watch this show all over the world that might not be aware of things like Doyle privilege and the fact that if you stand up, because this is all designed to scare people into standing up, right? This is and if you look at Paul Murphy's Twitter account, he describes himself as the TD, obviously, but he's an eco-socialist. He's part of Rise Socialists. He's part of People Before Profit. You know, I studied Marx at university 35 years ago, and that was before I knew that Marx was a satanic poet. Okay, and Marxism is exactly the same as, you know, communism and socialism are the same thing. And it always, and you know, Marxism has killed more people than anything else on this planet in history. And people, I'm saying this for people watching this who might not understand that, might not know that. So if somebody calls himself a socialist, but what always amazes me is that this man grew up in Ireland. He grew up with neighbors, presumably had a mammy and a pappy and a grandparents and stuff. How did this? My question to you two is, what's your opinion on how this has happened in a country like this? Because I've been living here full time for 7 years. I'm an immigrant, by the way, but I've got an Irish grandmother. For anybody watching this who starts throwing stones at me, but if
give you a pass,
I'm a blow-in, but I've got kids here, so you know, I'm whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not against immigration. I just want to say that as well. It's immigration is a healthy thing for most countries, but what we're seeing is not immigration. It's something completely different. The question I've got is, you know, we look at people like Paul Murphy, and we look at people like Leo Varadkar and Michael Martin. They don't seem human to me. That's my opinion. There's something missing in them, a soul mainly. What's your opinion on how do you think they managed to get into power, and how are they managing to push this Marxism onto people unknowingly?
They've been selected, not elected. No one elected is. They've been selected by a higher power, the dark power, to destroy this country from the inside out. Look, you only have to look at the Minister for Children, right over here, Roderick O'Gorman. This man, there's been a Tussler report put out months ago, Mark, right, just for people that don't know. And they have said about the most vulnerable children in our society that are under the care of the state, being trafficked to hotels, employed with alcohol and drugs, and raped by gangs of fucking paedophiles for money, right? He hasn't come out and said one word, not one syllable about that. The so-called Minister for Children, right? He's the most dangerous man, or one of the most dangerous men in this country at the minute. And this can't go on much longer. It's a disgrace. He's destroyed files. A judge that was going there, I think it was a retired judge, got in touch with him and sent him files about other children that were in trouble, obviously, in state care. They were getting abused. He deleted 3 out of 4 of those files, Mark, the Minister for Children. So that's what we're dealing with over here. Absolute evil.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you were asking how these people, you know, came to be where they are. I mean, it's like...
How did the Irish fall for it? Is the question.
Pardon?
How did the Irish fall for it is the question, really.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, in my opinion, like from whatever, 55, 56 years of age now, you know, growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like I remember, especially the late 80s, 90s, Ireland was fantastic. It was a fantastic place to be. We qualified for Euro 88. It kind of lifted the nation. You know, we had this Green Army going abroad, and they showed everybody how to behave themselves during the football game. Like, you know what I mean? All the police forces in Germany, they went to Italian 90, the police forces there, they were having great fun. They showed people what it means to be Irish, that we, you know, we love to enjoy ourselves. You know, we drink too much, that's a given. But at the same time, most of us can fairly hold our alcohol. And Italian 90 boosted, and we got to a quarter final. We went to America 94, and it's like there was loads of good things happening. Irish sports stars and all we're doing great. Sean Kelly, Stephen Roach winning the Tour de France or whatever. So we kind of started to then prosper then with this uplift, and I suppose, you know, people got great belief in themselves as well, Irish people, you know, and whatever. It just was like the rising tide lifted all the boats, let's say. But then we had this economic Celtic Tiger boom, and I think it really kind of destroyed us. It put us to sleep. We all became property. Our houses, you know, quadrupled in value in 6 to 12 months. You know, we refinanced our houses. We became property developers, wannabe property developers, tycoons, everything else. And we had money, and we were benefiting from the cheap money from Europe. And I was one of these people partying and having a great time and everything else. And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, we wake up and all our institutions have been overrun by these cultural Marxists. It's like they've snuck in under the radar. And this is just from what I've personally experienced, that I feel I've experienced this, is that then our media, our universities, our colleges, our schools, our libraries, our politicians, all have jumped on board with this kind of cultural Marxist takeover. You know, it's like they've been bought out, and they've sold the country down to corporations and big international finance capital. You know, so now the people have no say in what's going on in the country now. They think they have, but we don't. And these politicians like Varadkar and everything, all groomed to be the people that they are. Like Varadkar was, when he was a kid, young fella, he was on telly saying he was a federalist, a European federalist. You know what I mean? Absolutely no national pride in him at all, right? He's a gay Indian man, right, living with his partner, who puts himself up and he goes up online kissing young fellas in discos, when at the same time he's in the newspaper having a romantic dinner with his partner in their new house. You know, these people have no principles, they've no morals. And planted in there, members of the World Economic Forum, and the likes of Micheál Martin, I think it was your old style politician at the beginning, Fianna Fáil, you know, brown envelopes and builders giving them a few bob for planning permission and all of that. Next thing they develop it, the corruption gets worse and worse. And the corruption we have now is 10 times, 100 times worse than what we had when people were just getting brown envelopes for getting planning permissions. You know, jobs for the boys and all of this kind of stuff. So this and they're just, as you said, they have no soul, and they've sold the soul, their souls. They've sold the nation down the Swanee to these corporations. Look at all the data centers that they're putting up, all the energy they're using, and at the same time, you have a Green Party that are shutting down power stations, coal burning, or peat burning power stations, oil burning, coal burning in the Shannon Estuary there, Money Point, one of the biggest power stations in the country. They're closing it down, and they're putting windmills up all around the place, destroying the beautiful scenery. So yeah, I mean, it's follow the money. You know, the money has taken over this country, and the reason why it's so difficult to get people to wake up is because I think so many of them are on the gravy train. You know, they're benefiting financially from the current system, even though socially, and, you know, our safety and everything else is being compromised, our children's safety, and the corruption of children's minds is being compromised with all of this. But once that their bank accounts are okay and in good condition, once they have a nice house, and you know, they're able to go out and go to their local bars or restaurants. And most of these people are going to local bars and restaurants where there's no diversity. They don't see the diversity. They don't come to Tala here, walk outside my door and see all the 80% of the population. Like, there's no English, never mind Gaeilge, Irish being spoken. There is no English being spoken outside my door here. I'm in a huge minority in the area where I live. But a lot of these people who are keeping the country, the government in power, don't experience this. You know, they're living in these non-diverse areas. You know, they wouldn't go up and live in a Blanchardstown where there's a huge black population, of Balbriggans, or up around me, MacWilliam here in Tala, where there's a big black population. You wouldn't catch them going near these places. You know, they don't see how deprived they are becoming, and how antisocial and how much crime is happening there, you know, in these places. So yeah, I think like we've just been comatose, I think, with I suppose with materialism and consumerism. And while that was going on, these institutions were all flooded with this cultural Marxism, you know, and it's been going on for a long time. It's a plan. It's been engineered, you know. Sorry for going on now on a big long one there.
No, don't apologize. This platform's for you tonight. I was just going to ask you both about, you know, if you're watching this and you're in Ireland and you're thinking, what are they talking about? The World Economic Forum, you can see Varadkar was groomed by them from an early age. So a lot of the leaders, and the corruption is very, very deep. But from your experience, what do you think the vehicles for that have been? And what I mean by that is, in the UK, for example, there's an organization called Common Purpose, which has been in action for at least 30 years, getting people into positions, managerial positions locally, into schools, headmasters, headmistresses, into local councils. And what we've seen, you know, I'm in the west of Ireland, you can see the centralization of power of the councils, for example. This town has a town hall, but there's not been a mayor here for 30 years. And this has been going on for a long, long time. And it is while people sleep. Have you noticed anything like Common Purpose, or something that has come to my attention since I've been looking into it properly, is the incredible amount of Masonic influence all over the country? Do you think that these people that are involved in these organizations have been the glue that have held this together and allowed this to happen? Because how else could you explain it?
Yeah, do you want me to answer that one? Sorry, Ferg. Yeah, it's I've been made aware of Common Purpose there over the last couple of years. When you think of it, like, I mean, these people are quite smart that we're dealing with. They are it's like grooming. They're grooming these. They try to identify these leaders, these corporate leaders, business leaders, and they nab them and they pull them in. And I think a lot of it's got to do with the UN, the World Economic Forum, the 17 sustainable goals that they're pushing. Agenda 2030, Agenda 2040, which I might add, authored, right? We have to be the best in the class, us Paddies, us Irish, authored by a guy called David O'Donoghue. If anyone wants to try and look him up, he's not an easy person to find out there. He keeps himself off the radar, but he was an Irish diplomat. He was an ambassador over, I think, in the US. And he works big time in the UN, and he is the main author of this Agenda 2030 and the 17 sustainable goals. And when you look into these 17 sustainable goals, it's about a takeover. It's about dehumanizing people. It's about control. It's about keeping people in fear, climate action, and infiltrating the school systems, the education systems, putting in this LGBTQ transgender ideology into children's heads. And then it's also about placing these people into positions of power in industry and business.
Is it this one? Is it this guy here?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it wouldn't be him.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
No, he would be an older individual. He would be an older guy, I think. But was it the picture of the guy? Was that the? That was
I think that's the journalist.
That was the journalist.
I think so.
Okay, yeah. It could have been. I couldn't properly see that, but it could have been. But these guys are like, I suppose, you know, Irish people, Irish diplomats and people coming over to the UN from Ireland are highly regarded, you know. And there is this thing, I don't know what it is about Irish. We have to be the best in the class, you know. We really have to do and show Europe and show the UN that we are going to do everything. Just praise us as much as possible, and we'll do anything you want. So these Common Purpose places, like, I suppose I don't know fully now the details of where it originated. You were saying 30 years ago, Mark. You might know more about that than me. But I mean, it is quite. Again, you have to go back and follow the money. and we have to identify who the enemy is here, and the people who control the money, and the international finance capitalists, and they make it their business to create these I suppose common purpose is like an NGO, you could call it, a non-government organization, and it probably gets funded by the likes of Soros and, you know, Rothschild banks and BlackRock and these people. So they put in place this operation to groom, identify people that they see as have talent that will push their narrative, push this mass fear in people, this kind of we want control, we want to make people into economic units, and these are just cogs in the machine, I suppose. You know, like you have a guy I think called Mark Mellett, who was he was a chief of staff in the army, and I think he was one of these common purpose people. He was groomed and being educated with this. He was asked to join the club, let's call it. It's like a little club. So he would have been in that club. He would have then retired from the army, and I think now he's kind of a part-time activist with this common purpose. And he would have been putting LGBT ideology into the army. You know, let's make the army gay. That's going to save the day, really. You know, and let's feminize the army. Let's bring more women into the army. You know, we need more women soldiers. You know, like it's like we need to send women to the front line if ever there was going to be a war. This gay advocacy, and now we have in our barracks as well, we have the LGBT flag being raised in the month of June or whatever outside our army barracks, you know, which as far as I know is against the law. It's illegal, but this is what, you know, happens when you get these people who get to these positions of high ranking positions in organizations like the army and in companies and industries and corporations, you know.
What do you think, Ferg?
The whole thing, it's all part of the one agenda, Mark. Every part of this, in my eyes, the trans thing, the homelessness over here, the housing situation, our own youth having to leave the country to go and get work and the whole lot. It's all part of depopulation, in my eyes, every part of it, every bit of it. It's a very, very big machine, and we're going up against here, a very well-funded machine. But like I said, we're all around the country here. Like I was down in Cork there yesterday, the spirit down there, the tenacity, the will to just make everything right. And it's all the one thing, Mark. It's all for our children and the future generation of this country. I'm not joking. Like these people haven't got a clue who they're at taking on here. Honest to God. And I really believe that this is God's country, and that's why these devils want to destroy it. But honest to God, I really think that they're picking on the wrong people. In my eyes, they really have. They picked the fight with the wrong people.
I totally agree. Have you guys ever read Island, Land of the Pharaohs?
No.
It's a really good book. And in that book, it's been written about 20 years ago, but in that book, it talks about there being 16 layers of black magic put on Ireland compared to 2 in other countries, because it's such a powerful spiritual place, because of the links between this country and Egypt, and with the technology, with the megalithic tombs everywhere and the portal tombs and it is God's country, and they know that. They've known that for a very long time. I mean, you've got history being rewritten everywhere you go. The Titanic Museum in Belfast is history being rewritten, because that was not what they said it was. You've got the famine, which was not what they said it was. It was a genocide. You've got all of these things throughout, and this is why the schools are playing such a fundamental part in the indoctrination of the kids. But I'm seeing a lot of kids awake. I'm seeing a lot of kids waking up. What are you seeing? Let's talk about the positive sides of all of this shite that you've been recording over the last few years. What are the positive things that you're getting on the ground? Are people starting to see the bigger picture? Because that's the big problem, isn't it? They can't always see the bigger picture. Is that happening now?
Yeah. How do you feel? Go on.
Yeah. Sorry, Ferg. I've noticed from going around on my travels, and it's one thing. I remember I did a stream in Crumlin there. I had an issue with the sound. I think it didn't work out, but in the Heel of the Hunt, there was a couple of young lads. They couldn't have been more than 12 or 13 years of age, and I was shocked. And they come over and said, "Phil, how are you? You know, we're watching you on YouTube or whatever." When I was on YouTube, and I said, "What? Like, what are you? You're only 12. Like, what are you talking about?" And he says, "Oh no, me man and dad told me about it. Told me to watch it. We're watching your stuff." Now I was like intrigued, and I kind of asked them off. Can I ask your parents? Would you three like to come on and talk like this on a stream or whatever? And just let us know what it was like for young people. Nobody has asked them. you know, what it was like even during COVID. They had to go into school and windows were left open in the freezing cold. They made wear masks all day. They absolutely tortured these children under the guise of this fake pandemic. And nobody's ever really asked. I haven't seen anybody going to these children and just ask them, how did it feel for you guys? You know, what do you think about it? But I actually think now it's probably awoken a lot of them. And it was another young girl we met, and she was working in a bar, and she had just left secondary school, and it was in the west of Ireland, and she had said that a girl in her class was letting on, or she was identifying as a cat. And the school were putting a litter tray in the school classroom beside her, right? It just involved themselves in the delusion of this poor child, right? Now I said, well, what the rest of you, what do you think about the stuff that they're pushing, the LGBT stuff, and you know, indulging this child in this? And she's kind of says, nah, 90% of us, we know. And I was like, a relief. I says, I'm so relieved to hear you say that. Yeah, maybe 10% of the students she was in class with. When the girl, she's come out of class one day and who thinks she's a cat, some of the girls start barking at her, you know, just as a kind of a, you know, taking the mick, you know. And she was taken into the office by the principal, and told that she wasn't going to be a prefect now this year because of what she did to that girl. You know, and this was an A student, a top sports star in the school, a wonderful young lady. And it was a relief, and it was a kind of a buzz to hear her say, no, we don't go with all that nonsense. We know what they're doing. They're trying to indoctrinate us. You know, it was like they're not falling for it. And plus, I think they're bypassing the mainstream media, the young people. They're on their phones getting their information. They're not necessarily getting it from RTE, BBC, CNN. You know, right. They're doing it through their phones, which is a kind of a good thing. But then again, they're spending so much time on their phones, on TikTok and everything else. There's a bad side to that
sword,
too.
isn't it? It's a double-edged sword. But you know, you've met one of my sons. I think he's coming in and quoting things at me from TikTok, and I'm like, wow, you know, and he's 13, and that's great to see. But they did the same. My eldest son got victimized for picking on somebody that was supposed to be gay when they were 13, 14.
Yeah.
And I had to go into the school and witness, because apparently this kid had said my son had been taking pictures of him in the toilet. And then I had to be there to witness the phone being opened. And I looked at my son when I walked in, and I was like looking at him, and he went, no. I knew that he'd not done anything wrong. And they were shouting and screaming at him. And one of I think the deputy head kept coming out with some nonsense like, no child left behind, shouting at me. I'm like 3 feet from him.
Yeah.
No child would calm down. And it was obvious that there was no pictures on this phone. And then
and just by coincidence now, Mark, that you're living in the same town where my mother is from, Boyle, County Roscommon, and I visited there last summer, and the school was closed, and I went in just to see what kind of a place it was. Now, my grandfather used to be the caretaker in that school that your children are going to. So it just shows you Ireland, how small it is as a country. But then what they have now in the door, where you don't even have to go inside the door, you can see this LGBT agenda before they even pass the threshold of the door. They're being indoctrinated in that. That's a particularly woke headmaster, pro-LGBT nonsense. These people have no place in schools. I mean, if a proper government gets in, a government for the Irish people gets in, these people will be dismissed from their jobs straight away. They'll all be made reapply. But again, it's a particular school that you're talking about there, unfortunately, that your son now has to pay consequences for that. He's lucky he has somebody like yourself as a father who's able to go in there and fight his corner and put these people back in their box, you know. Well, I'd like to see a lot of these headmasters getting put back in their box, you know.
Well, you know, the thing is with that position in society is that it's something that goes back generations for me, because my own father was abused by a preacher at a church, and it was many years later. And I said to my nan, why didn't you do anything? And she just said, we were too scared. And that's still hot. This is why priests got away with paedophilia in Ireland for so long, because they had such powerful positions in the local community that people just kept quiet about it. And it's, you know, and I wrote to it's not just that school, the earlier school here. I wrote to them when they had the mandates for the kids when the kids were like 10, 11 years old to have masks on. And I said, you can't, this is child abuse. You can't do this. And I took my twins out of that school for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. And then I got dragged in to a meeting, I think it was about a year and a bit ago, with the teacher, who seemed like a reasonable man. And I was always very courteous to him, and he was to me. But then he dragged me in front of this woman from Tulsa. Have I said it right? I always say it wrong. Tulsa.
Yeah.
And she sat there and threatened me with prison. And I went, you're threatening me with prison? You tried to put masks on children. That's child abuse. And she started shaking, and she was visibly shaking. I went to shake her hand as I left, and she couldn't do it. And it's like, you know, my message to, you know, and I tried to set up when the COVID thing happened, I knew what was going on. And I got together with a couple of parents and said, look, we have to get the kids out of school. It's fundamental. We got to get them out. They're not safe there, you know, and they haven't been safe here because there's been a meningitis outbreak here recently, which apparently was, well, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about the ins and outs of it because I don't know the full details. But what I've heard from my kids is a little bit disturbing. But, you know, and I'm saying to anybody watching this, you can stand up. You have the right. You are. One of the things I'd say to anybody watching this in any country is that when a school sends you a form, for example, and it says signed by parent / guardian, cross that out and put father, mother. Because parent means you're renting the child. Guardian means you just, you know, this is all about the state owning your children, your state indoctrinating your children. Get them out if you can. But I had meetings with people to try and set up a homeschooling cooperative, you know, a separate kind of thing. But nobody was interested because they were too busy with their lives. And, you know, and in this kind of financial trap that most people seem to be caught in. And then the way that the amount of money that was paid in Ireland to people to not work during COVID it's the same trick that they've used on the, you know, the country as a whole. They do it on a micro level. And, you know, if you look at in this town, if you look at the businesses that are new and thriving, it's all immigrants. There's very rarely Irish people, which is really sad. I mean, it's good in some ways, you know, because people are getting curries where they used to get bacon and cabbage. But I mean, that's like, you know, one side of it that you can see a positive from certain aspects of immigration, because I grew up in England, I saw the same thing. But you've got this, it's a kind of trap because people are terrified of saying something or speaking out because they don't understand how much power they have, and it's their children. And the thing that breaks my heart is that, you know, what I say, getting my kids out of school, my 2 eldest left school before they finished, and I'm very pleased about that. My eldest has gone on to do what he wanted to do. My daughter's just done the same. The others, I tell the same thing to. You don't have to go to school, but I'm in a broken marriage, so I can't just pull them out. I can't force them because kids want to be together. But the positive thing I'm seeing from the kids that I'm talking to is they do see through most of the shit, and that's an extremely positive thing. And if you globalists, LGBT types are watching this, your future is not as easy as you think it's going to be because the kids are not buying what you're selling anymore. You know, and they're seeing through it because people like Ferg and Philip are standing up and saying there's another point of view here that you haven't looked at. My next question is, like, in terms of positive things, is like this town, for example, has just had a massive influx, and it's, you know, everybody in town knows that the landlords are making millions off of putting these people up in this accommodation that they're putting them into. And I'm seeing a leaflet campaign go out saying, look, we're not racist, but there's an issue. Do you know what I mean? Do you think that's, I mean, that's a positive thing, but I just don't think it's strong enough because people, they're still afraid to just tell the truth about what's going on. What do you think people in towns around Ireland who are seeing these problems should be doing?
Don't start your conversation with, I'm not racist for the start. You're putting yourself in the back foot straight away. Like it happened now with Phil down there, these politicians trying to infiltrate towns and saying, oh, it's only women and children. And then the next minute, there's busloads of men getting brought in at night. It's happening all over the country. And thank God for the likes of that man there. And tell you here now, I feel blessed to know him. And this country is in a much better place because of him. That's being honest with you. Just getting back to the positive things, right? I went out with Barry Stone, Let's Wake Up Era. Barry's been absolutely, he's a trojan. he went out giving out information about the poison in those jabs. And at the start of it, Mark, you would have got spat on. You were getting ridiculed, spat on, called all sorts of names. Over the last year, or so maybe even a bit longer, over the last year and a half, the difference in people's attitudes now, and they actually know themselves. They're coming up to us, and the support convoy and traffic and the whole lot, people stopping. People are coming up to you now, knowing that they have maimed their family members. They have murdered their family members. So God bless them when all these people actually wake up to the whole fact of that, because they're in real trouble.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ferg. There's an underbelly of anger. It has to be a subconscious thing for those people who've been hoodwinked into taking that experimental jab. And the damage is done. I made a video with a great guy, and Ferg knows him too. We've all become friends. Martin O'Brien, who tragically lost his daughter, who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at 13 years of age, 3 weeks after her first jab. And he gave an amazing interview and explained everything. And I don't know how he kept his composure and all of this, but I mean, things like that is a positive, that these parents and fathers and our mothers, whoever, are willing to come out onto the media, put themselves out there and say what their story is. We can't 100% prove that it was the jab, but I mean, it's just so much there pointing in the one direction. And that girl was like a turbo cancer took over her body, and she was dead within a year of her diagnosis. A wonderful child. I mean, it's just such a heartbreaking story, and you know, that kind of thing is waking people up. It's to see the bravery of people like Martin, and the courage that he showed to stand there and have a 20-minute conversation about his child like that. The other things that are happening, I think, are positive in 2023. I think there was a lot of movement, and as Ferg said, it is a thing that you notice. People are coming up to you on the street. People are burping their horn at you. They're passing you in a car and they're waving at you. You know what I mean? They're seeing what you're doing, and it is nice and it's encouraging for us. It's kind of gives you a bit of inspiration to keep on going, keep on doing what you're doing, because if you feel your message is getting out there, it will inspire you to carry on. There was some great things happening. I'm a great fan of a guy called Keith Woods online. He's on Twitter and YouTube and all of this. He's one of the smartest, brightest Irishmen I think we have out there. He was the one, as far as I'm concerned, brought this hate speech thing to Elon Musk. Elon Musk retweeted him and engaged with him, and he was the first person then to put shine a light worldwide on the insanity of what the Irish government are trying to do. They're trying to put people in jail for their thoughts and their words. And you know, it's people like himself. He's got a huge traction over the ADL thing, ban the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Now, we might all think, oh, that's some organization in thing. And it has to be said, they're a Jewish-run organization. They were started as a Jewish organization back in the 1920s to try and get some guy who was a convicted child murderer, a Jewish convicted child murderer, off the hook. And ever since then, they've formed this kind of an NGO, non-government organization, and they have massive influence around the world with technology companies and social media companies. And they're going in and they're making these companies ban people like myself, yourself, Mark, Ferg, Keith. And it was only since Elon Musk took over Twitter. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Elon Musk either, I think, but at the same time, he's done an awful lot with Twitter to open it up as a kind of a free speech platform to an extent, and it's working well for us at the moment. But as I said, Keith Woods, I think single him out as an Irishman that has made a huge impact. I think he has the 17th most influential Twitter account in the world. He's a philosopher by trade. That's what he studied in college. I've met him personally. He's a lovely, humble young man, and he's making such a huge impact. He's just calling out the truth, and he's calling out what is really going on, who the enemy is, follow the money, international finance capital. And we all need to know that this is the enemy, and we have to deal with it accordingly. You know, it's not about hating any particular group of people or anything else. We just have to call things out for what it is. The other thing I think is with Conor McGregor has come out now out of the traps, let's call it. I'd love to see him do more. I would, I would just think it's a benefit. Let's call it that. Conor has huge reach, and he has huge resources. and it's great to see that he's awake to what's going on. I would personally like to see, a bit more than just tweets and encouragement and criticism of the government or whatever. But hopefully, when elections come around and everything else, Conor be able to help the movement or whatever like that.
Well, it can't be underestimated how important it is that we need these people we're following, celebrities. We need them. Yeah. Because without them, we're constantly fighting. We're just like little minnows in the pond, aren't we? And we're trying to knock at the door, but there's so many celebrities, especially in Ireland and the UK and the States, that have been part of the whole bloody thing. I mean, how many of them? How many of the celebrities that people love in their living rooms every night have came out and told everybody to get jabbed? I mean, look at that. Who's that Toy Story guy? Not Toy Story. The Late Show guy. That, I mean, what?
Tuberty.
Yeah, jeez.
Tuberty or Kilty, yeah.
Tuberty. Yeah, Tuberty. I mean, just horrible individuals.
Oh, an absolute soulless freak, yeah.
Went so low as to use a little one on the Late Toy Show to the Minister jabs.
An
absolute scumbag.
That was just horrific. And if that, again, is that waking people up? Because it's mind-blowing. But I think it is. And there's a lot of positive things that you've said there. Can you tell us what's happening positive in the next few months? I know that Ferg, you're doing something. I don't know what Philip's doing, but let people know where they should come to, how they can support what you're doing, what they can do locally. If you've got any advice for people who want to get the society back that they want.
The next Sunday, 2:00, the Garden of Remembrance. There's a women's. Well, there's men going out to support it as well, but there's a rally out there at 2:00 next Sunday. So I'd implore anyone that can get out there, please get out and show support to these women and make sure they're not removed from the Constitution. Another thing we're trying to have, myself and Lindsay Mooney, a good friend of mine, we want to take back our National Day of Celebration, our Patron Saints Day, out of the hands of these sadistic monsters who putting men in dresses and the G-strings, that bits hanging out on floats for St. Patrick's Day. Nothing Irish about it. So we're taking that back. We're organising something for the 17th. Everyone's more than welcome. We can't give out the details as regards the venue yet because of the left, the sabotage it. But we're actually getting a major response to this. It's going to be loads there in the day. There's people travelling from other countries to this now, Mark. So we give out the details a bit closer to the day, but I'm really looking forward to that. Just a special day for the children, and it'll actually be the 4-year anniversary of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So we're going to have a good celebration. Just a day for family, a day for the children, and a day for the Irish, and anyone else that wants to join in.
That's fantastic. So St. Patrick's Day, 17th of March. Follow Ferg on Twitter here, which is FergusPower1. And there's the post there about the Garden of Remembrance thing. Just tell the viewers that don't know about this, the voting no. This is a new referendum, which is basically removing women from the Constitution, correct?
They want to remove the word mother, woman, and family home from the Constitution. They want to bring in these durable relationships that will essentially just be more mass illegal immigration. This has to be an overwhelming no vote on the 8th of March.
Well, I was in a chipper the other day and I noticed an advert, because you know they put the mind controls on the walls of everywhere, and there was an advert for this referendum on TV, which I never watched, but there it was, and they're using exactly the same colors that they used in COVID, which is the blue and the yellow, which is, if anybody reads my Substack, you'll know that those are mind control colors. It's also the same color as the Roscommon flag, strangely. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. That's great.
Yeah, just another thing as well. Like Ferg talking about the referendum, I'm not fully up to speed on all of that, but it's again, it's a government way of controlling the people and bringing in their narrative, and it looks to me like it's mass migration. That with this, if it's voted in, it will allow people from all races, creeds, and colours to bring in anybody they deem as they're in a durable relationship with. They can't even define it themselves. It's like hate or it's like far right. The government can't even define those terms themselves.
They can't even define the word woman.
No, our woman, exactly. And the other thing as well is, like, make sure anyone in Ireland here, just make sure that you go out and vote for these upcoming elections and referendums. Go out there. That's the only real power now that you have in the next 5 to 6 months, is to go out and put the X on a piece of paper. That's all we're asking you to do, and to vote out these current politicians out of the Dáil, and vote for independents, nationalists. There's plenty of parties there to vote for. And support people as well. I mean, I've a few links on my bios as well if you want to support me. Support people who are making content, who are out there in the fight, because you know, they do deperson you, they do destroy your reputation, they do try to cancel you, and we need that kind of help as well. I think Keith Woods put it really well. He said, if you're watching this now for the last 2 or 3 years, and if you're not doing anything, if you're just sitting there looking at content makers like myself and yourself, Mark and Ferg, or whatever, and you're not making a contribution as regards either financially or going out and attending these protests, these marches, maybe you can't. But if you're just one of these people that is sitting there doing absolutely nothing, well, you're no good to anyone. You know, shame on you. You need to start now helping out one way or the other, either by your presence at a protest, by sharing people's stuff, or else if you can financially, it'd be much appreciated. But I say that that's for everybody who's making content. You know, we need help to do this. You know, we're doing it with basically our phones and our laptops and our cars, and we're going out there and giving our time and energy and risking life and limb, death threats and everything else. So you know, I don't want to be you know, being too forceful about that, but it is important now at this stage. We all know and see what's going on.
It is. You guys watching this, I'm going to put links near this video. If it's on Twitter, go to the Twitter pages, donate directly to these guys if you can. If it's on any other of my platforms, I'll put the links underneath. If I put the links in Twitter, nobody sees the bloody video. That's the problem. But yeah, I know I can vouch for that firsthand. With what you guys have done is plow a field to allow it easier for other people to follow, and I think that's amazing. And I'm very proud to know both of you, and I know Ireland is proud of you, and the future, I believe, is bright because we've got people like you out there. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope anybody watching this can spread this far and wide. Let the story of what's going on in Ireland be known worldwide. I mean, what's happened with Twitter and Elon Musk is fantastic. If I was in the Dáil, I'd be crapping my pants that Elon Musk is telling me not to do something. But you know what? These people are clinically insane and without souls and evil. That's is the obvious thing. And good will prevail. God will win. And with men like this at the helm, the spirit of Ireland lives on. Thank you for joining me, guys. Anything you want to say before we go? Yeah, can I just give a shout out to all the great men and women in South Dublin says now, every man and woman that has been out tirelessly in every sort of weather without, you know what I mean? Now it doesn't, I took time away from the families the whole lot because you know how important this battle is. Just a shout out to every, just once in a lifetime Irish men and women that have been out battling this evil. And I want to give a shout out, especially to my beautiful wife and my kids, because everything I do is for them. Simple as that. I have everything I need under my roof here. Everything else is a blessing. Every person that I've met is a blessing. And seriously, like, there's you cannot be people that won't give up. And there's no quitting us. So you know what I mean. This fight's already won, and the hearts and the minds, it's already won. I think it's just a matter of time. Keep hitting these with the truth, and they will fall. Every one of them. And by the way, anyone in America, please defund Sinn Féin. They're the cancer to Ireland. An absolute cancer that has to be cut out. So please defund them. And God bless all in this for you, éiReGOBRAGH. Thank you, Ferg.
Well said, Ferg. Yeah, just thanks for having us on, Mark. And it's like we'll stay out there. We'll keep telling the truth. As I said, they'll have to, you know, they'll have to stick a bullet in our heads to stop us doing what we're doing. We're not going to stop until we get justice and truth out there. Amazing. Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon. I'll see you on March the 17th, hopefully. Yep, sound, Mark. God bless. Thank you. God bless. Take care. Cheers.
Rising Era. The enemy of the Irish was never fake religion or invisible lines drawn between once loving neighbours. From north to south with satanic precision. In the ancient land of Atlantis, to Egyptian pyramids in Limerick's mist, sovereignty hidden in the twisted words of a traitor's kiss. The lying face of tyranny gifting its despair. All the king's horses in 1,000 years of tears could never stop the spirit of a rising era. The ghosts of the land rose through the Dagda and Bobby Sands, who led the 9 brave souls into martyrdom, against the witch and for salvation of freedom's demands. The British were but the face of a hidden evil, with long-term plans to deceive and desecrate the Fae and the people with a faux virus cull. As their plans for death became distorted, as the truth released did tame the beast, Gardaí and Tusla minions thwarted, from stealing children in the dead of night. The people awoke and threw off their yokes. No more they'd stand for these demonic frights. Black seals delivered and forces mustered. The lights were shining through every crack, raising the frequency of courage spurred. As the ISIS needle piercing Dublin's heart did tumble, its vaccine cargo turned at once to dust. Blood ran clean and masks ripped off to form the future council. The lying face of tyranny gifting its despair. All the king's horses in 1,000 years of tears could never stop the spirit of a rising era.